Welcome back to the Walkoff Mariners podcast. My name is Jordy Bott, joined as always with Juan Forno, and we've got an amazing week to talk about. This is probably by far our favorite week of the season. We went into Texas. We took 2 of 3. Looked really good. The pitching's been great. And then we came back to Seattle. Right now, we're guaranteed 2 of 3. As we're recording this, we are recording before the 3rd game. But right now, the vibes are just immaculate. How have you been feeling about the games this week, Juan?
Yeah, it's kind of nice coming from last week. We felt good, but we put a caveat on it, being Cincinnati and Colorado, 2 teams that weren't necessarily top of the tier teams within the league. And I know the records don't necessarily show it when it comes to Texas and Arizona, but I mean, those are the 2 teams that were in the World Series last year. So, I don't think they've completely fallen off. And I think it's good to see, Texas is known for their hitting that lineup. They got a bunch of guys that can bash, right? And the pitchers won. It was our best against their best, and our best won. And now we're seeing it in Arizona too. The pitchers are continuing to dominate. And, for us to end up where we want to be at the end of the season, we're winning exactly how we thought we were going to need to win. So love the fact that it wasn't, a 1-week blip against a couple of weak teams. I'm glad they carried that over. And it seems like they figured it out a little bit right now.
Yeah. You mentioned that the pitching, right? Because we were talking, we're like, oh, well, the pitching did a good job shutting down a lineup in Colorado. But now they're going to Texas, who obviously, they've got a few bashers. And Arizona is sneakily in 2nd place for runs per game right now. Like, they have a phenomenal offense themselves. And we've been just shutting them down so well. Like, this starting pitching, stop me if you've heard this before, but the starting pitching is on right now. It's amazing to see.
And I mean, not even just the starting pitching, but the pitching as a whole, the bullpen as well, man. Like, the team ERA being 1.47 in the last 15 games is unspeakable.
It's the lowest in a 15-game stretch ever. That's
You in an offense basically think, oh, we only have to score 2 runs each game and we should be fine. Like, that's nuts. There's no pressure. It just takes one dude, a bloop and a blast, to win right now based off of how well these guys are pitching. From fucking Castillo to Ball.
Against Texas, that's pretty much how they were doing it. It's just a couple of home runs and then kablamo. We're cruising to the end of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good to see Ty, back-to-back days with home runs and providing that offensive spark. And I know, like, he's been hitting well all season up to this point, really. And now to see the power start to kind of come around for him as well, sky's the limit for Ty. But we're gonna live and die off that pitching. So good health so far. Hopefully that continues. So I'm excited to see, when we match up against a team that is performing really well in the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, this is going to be a really entertaining series to watch, especially too because Atlanta's kind of got a Seattle thing going on where some of their big guys aren't really playing the way that they could be, right? Because Acuna only has, correct me if I'm wrong, 1 or 2 home runs at the moment, right? So it's a lot like what's going on with Julio, right? Not a lot of power, but they're still managing to find ways to win. So I'm really excited about this series, and I'm hoping that it's not the series where Acuna decides that he's got power again.
Next thing you know, it's just Acuna, Olsen, fucking Ozuna.
Well, and Olsen hasn't been hitting super well either, right? Ozuna's been
he's on fire. Yeah, I think he leads the NL with bombs, like 9 home runs.
Yeah, he's got the most in the National League.
Yeah, so a tough matchup. I mean, obviously those guys can hit, and there's a reason they're, I think they're like 18-8 or some shit like that. If we take 2 out of 3 against Atlanta, I'm gonna start really believing. I'm gonna get on that hype train a little too aggressively for this point of the year.
Well, this is a funny stretch for us because we've got the World Series champions, the National League champions, and then the World Series favorites this year, all in a row. And right now we're sitting at 4-1. So if we can even come out of this stretch at 500, I will be so happy with this team, which we're guaranteed 500 if my math is correct, right? There's 4 games.
There's 4 more. No, we would have to
Oh no,
win.
we're 4-1. We're 4-1. We have to win one more game, and we're
Yeah,
guaranteed 500. Which the other thing is I've always talked about the playoff matchups and stuff. Obviously, I don't want to lose the series to Atlanta, but if we do, out of all three of those series, that's the one. The one we needed to win was Texas
totally.
because that's going to be the one with the biggest playoff implications. So right now, we just get one more win. I'm happy. Everything after that is a nice little bonus, but I do love bonuses too.
No, and I agree with you. I think like Texas was obviously the most important out of those three series with the Diamondbacks and Braves as well. Yeah, to come out, if you look at that on paper and say, you got to go to Texas and then you have Arizona and Atlanta coming into you. That's a tough 9 game stretch. If you say you go 5-4, I don't think anybody's upset about that. So let's take care of that tonight. And then, even if we take one from Atlanta, he's still coming out 6-3 in that stretch of three series. So that's a phenomenal outcome. I don't think anybody, including the teams like the Dodgers and, Baltimore, would be upset about that when it comes to the teams that they're playing. And then hopefully, Houston continues to struggle on the weekend next week.
Man, I love it. They suck so much. This is the best thing ever. I don't know if I'm more excited about the Mariners doing well or Houston doing so bad.
It's even for me, man. I love seeing them suck. I'm not just like I'm like cautiously optimistic about the Seattle Mariners' success this far this season. I'm also cautiously optimistic about the Houston Astros being as dog shit or a trash can, if you will, as they are so far this season.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like I love watching this. I love watching them struggle so much, but I'm also watching it being like they're still the Houston Astros.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we talked about it with the Mariners, how the last couple of years, whenever Seattle's in it, it'd always be a slow start, and then they go on an insane stretch and put themselves back into the conversation. Houston is also more than capable of doing that, but it's once again, it's obviously the odds are against them, but I'm still always just scared because with Mariner fan luck, you're always going to be pessimistic about stuff like that.
No, you have to be for sure. And I mean, like, I think the Mariners only have 7 games on them right now, maybe 6.5. You wouldn't consider yourself out of the race at the start of September, 6.5 back. And it would be a tough mountain to climb, but September 1 rolls around and you're only 6.5 back. You still think that you got a shot. So obviously 6.5 back at this point in the season, after 30 games versus 6.5 back after 140 games is a very different situation. But I'm not the roster's too good in Houston for us to completely write them off this early. So hopefully they continue to be dog shit.
Especially if it lasts until the end of the week, because I love beating the Houston Astros.
Yeah, man. If that record, if they struggle through the next 5 days and that record is still as bad as it is, we got to go and take at least 2 out of 3 from them, but ideally a full sweep.
Oh, it would be beautiful. So we were mentioning a lot of positives out of the week, a couple negatives coming out. Injury wise, not our best week. First off, we'll start off with the JP injury. That's a harsh one. That one sucks because for me, watching him the last couple games, it seemed like he was starting to hit the ball a little better. Like you look at his numbers in the Colorado series and stuff, they were getting better and better. It seemed like he was kind of finding it. And then you get an oblique injury, which that's a month right there of no JP Crawford, which that hurts.
Yeah, and I thought it was a phantom IL stint until we kind of got the length and the depth of it, right? So it doesn't feel like a get right injury anymore, due to the time frame that they're suggesting, that month. Game 1, we saw Demo boot a ball at shortstop. That was very routine. So that's something to worry about there defensively as well. Even if, the offense isn't what it's doing, we still need that key defense that has been so integral to the success of this pitching success. So, I know they called up that Leonardo Reyes kid. Defensively, he's supposed to be really good. But it hurts, that's a good culture guy. That's a good locker room guy. Hopefully he's still around the team through this injury and through the rehab process as much as possible. But that one's going to sting, and it hasn't yet, but let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah, Another thing that's kind of tough about it is reading it. He's saying he's feeling it just breathing and moving around, which I've never had an oblique injury, but I've messed up my ribs before
Hurts.
and had that situation too, where just even breathing is hurts you. And the problem with that is you can't do anything.
No.
So he's not going to be working out or any of that stuff, which is also rough. So he's going to have a decent little rehab stint as well. So he's probably looking at maybe 3 or 4 games with Tacoma before even coming back up to Seattle. So
Oh, I
that's
would think.
another thing we kind of got to watch out for. However, Josh Rojas has looked pretty good out of the leadoff spot so far.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument that the lineup is in a little bit better shape with Rojas in the leadoff spot over JP, with how they've performed up to this point in the season. That's not a knock on JP, and we obviously know and value what he means to this team. But yeah, Rojas looks real good, man. Rojas is playing himself into a potential contract right now, dude.
And he's hitting the ball so well. Even his outs, he's hitting it hard.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah, good
think it was
ABs, not chasing pitches. It looks good,
I think it
man.
was one of the Texas games on Monday or something. He had 3 hits. No, he had 2 hits that were just over 100 miles an hour, and the other ball he put in play was like 97 or
Yeah.
something. So he's really seeing the ball well, which is great out of the leadoff spot. Hopefully he can keep it up, and if he plays himself into that permanent role, and we can throw JP somewhere else in the lineup in a third hole or something, I don't think JP is going to be too against that, batting in the 3 hole with runners on base.
No, either that or even like the 6 hole, man. Like, there's so many guys right now that are overachieving. When you look at, Rojas and Ty and even Cal went on a real hot streak there. And the power has been there for Cal. I know the strikeouts are up, but when you get that offensive production out of a catcher, that's an option. And then Haniger, right? Like Haniger's hitting the ball well as well. He had that G slam, like a goddamn pimp. And so you got a lot of options. The lineup
Are
gets a
you
little
ready to
bit
be
longer.
upset?
Huh?
Are you ready to be upset?
He didn't hit a
So
G slam?
no, he did hit the grand slam, but going into that game, in the week and a half before that, Haniger was about the second worst hitter on the team.
Oh, I do believe that, but he erases all that ill will
Yeah,
with
one swing of the bat.
one swing. But
Yeah, you hope he
he
can
does
turn
offer
around.
that, right? We have seen success. I mean, he started hot, so um, I didn't expect to get much out of Haneker this year, to be honest. I'm surprised he's playing as much as he is. If you would have asked me at
I'm
the start of
worried. I don't want him playing this much
yeah,
right
he's
now.
got
Like he's good and all, but every time he goes out there, I'm scared. I'm like, his something's gonna explode. His leg's gonna blow up. Like it's so scary to have him playing every day with his injury history. And we do have the options right now to move him DH because he's not the best in the field. It's not like we need his defense out there.
no, God no.
We can throw other guys in the outfield. Clase is losing at bats right now, which is another one. I don't think he was really earning at bats right now, but I don't like having him on the bench. At least just send him down
No.
and bring up someone else that you can put on the bench.
No, because if you want a speed defensive guy, there are options, right? Like if you're not going to let him hit, you're not going to let him hit. That's fine. I love the idea of like a Luke Raley, Clase, and Julio outfield with Haniger DHing and Garver off the bench, especially with like what Garver's doing. And I understand he'll run into a ball here and there, and it's nice when it does happen, but I don't think Garver's done enough up to this point that you just have to keep that bat in the lineup. And he's not really offering us any defensive versatility, right? Like it's not going to take Ty France out of the lineup right now and play first base, and you're sure as hell not going to put him behind the dish and sacrifice defense and what Cal has to offer as a better hitter as well right now. So, it sucks because you signed him to that free agent contract, and it was the one hitter you finally spent money on. And maybe you shouldn't spend money on hitters. Now we're seeing why you don't do that because you got it fucking wrong. There's still plenty of time for him to turn it around, but yeah, it's just not a must to have his bat in the lineup right now. And I think Haniger is better off DHing, keep him healthy. And the outfield defense would be better in that situation as well. You add a lot of speed to the lineup and with Rayleigh and Clase. And, obviously we can't put Demo out there right now because we need him at shortstop. But yeah, I just don't get why we keep running Garver out there every single day right now.
Yeah, it just seems crazy. That being said, there's definitely gonna be some positive regression. Like just even a quick look at his stats. His BABIP is under 100, which there's
That's crazy.
no way that's sustainable, right? Like
That
you've
has
got to
to.
expect it to rise up, unless because he's not like smacking weak little balls. Like he's still making decent contact out there. So
Yeah.
we will see some positive regression. Is it going to be worth $11 million a year? I don't know if we're going to see that much positive regression because the other thing that I saw out of this is someone posted a graph on Twitter and it showed basically just average bat speed for players as they age. And you hit 33, and that was a significant drop off, right? It was pretty steady. And then 33, it just like plummeted. And not Haniger, Garver is 33 now. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty scary thought.
It also
But
like,
yes,
yeah. I mean, I know I remember when we first signed him and we talked about it, and I thought it was like 2 year 12 million, not 2 year 24 million. And at 2 year 12 million, I think I was right. What we've seen so far. Um, but at least they're not tied in, right? Like I don't love the idea of signing aging veterans with not much history. I know he played well last year and hit well in Texas last year, but he was a late bloomer. There was a reason he was reaching free agency at 33, and that might be a wash of a contract, unfortunately. At least it's not going to cripple us. But
yeah, it's 2 years. It's not like it's terrible. It's not going to
no.
ruin us. We're not going to be 5 years down the line being like, oh, we're still paying this guy.
No, not at all. But it just doesn't feel like we need to force him into the lineup based off of the contract he signed.
Especially too, you're a winning team, right? This is a first place team right now, which I love saying that, by the way.
Nice.
But you're a first place team. You should be playing guys who earn that time. You're
Totally.
in a position where you should be doing that. This isn't like we're not a third place team. This isn't the Cardinals where we're like, well, we're paying this guy 12 million a year. It's not like it's hurting us. We're not expected to win, right? We need to be winning. So throw out your best guys.
Especially now, like I know we keep harping on it, but the Rangers and Astros are going to figure some things out. They're not going to be there at the end of the year. So we got to take advantage and make as much room as possible right now while they're unhealthy in the starting rotation and still trying to figure it out, right? We got to create that gap as much as possible. To give us as much breathing room, when we inevitably run into an injury in the starting rotation or whatever. And I know like we got Woo in the wings or whether it's Hancock that goes down or whatnot, we'll be able to handle an injury or two in the rotation in the starting starting rotation and bullpen as well. Um, I
Let's
lost my
let's
train of
talk
thought.
about Wu because he has been on fire right now to start his rehab process. Obviously, it's 2 short outings. He's done 3 innings and 3.1, but still, he's got a K rate, a K per nine over 15. Like he is just striking people out like no one's business. He's allowed 2 hits, no walks. I'm getting pretty excited about having him back. I'm excited
Yeah.
to see the steps forward he's going to take this year.
And I know it's such a tricky thing, and I know we've talked about this endlessly, right? And I'm like, man, Hancock is doing everything in his power right now to stick, right? If you went to Hancock and say, hey, you're only in this spot because Wu is unhealthy, and you're gonna ride out this spot until we get him back, and then you're gonna head to AAA because that's the plan and that's just how it is. You got to believe that Hancock, a guy that has had success and was a first round pick, sixth overall, in his head, he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna make it tough for them. You know, I understand why Wu is considered the lock for that fifth spot or whatever, but Hancock as a player and as a guy that is clearly shown some in that situation, he's telling himself, "I'm going to make it real fucking tough for them to take me out of this spot," and I think he has done that. You take away the one bad Brewers game, which is fine. Everybody's allowed a mulligan. He has done everything and more, in my opinion, that the team has asked of him. So it's a good problem to have, but it's tough too. You feel bad for one of these kids that's not going to get a spot in the rotation.
Yeah, it is kind of not an easy spot for him because once again, I'm still like, nah, even with all this pitching, I still don't see the Mariners leaving Wu in AAA over Hancock. And they can even send Hancock down. The nice thing is they have it's they have the convenience, right? They have the depth that they can set him down and be like, hey, you've got a massive injury history. We're just going to get you a couple outings of like 3, maybe 4 innings, just short outings, because there's a chance that down the line we're going to need this guy and he's going to get shut down at some point. There's no doubt about that. I don't think he's thrown over 100 professional innings in a season. So if you can give a couple really short stints, at least later down the line, especially when you get into the dog days, when you're kind of resting guys, you can bring him up, throw him in for a start or two. So I think it's nice that Woo's coming back and you have the option to send Hancock down and give him those no stress starts where you don't have to worry about kind of running out his arm this season.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that's a massive implication in the decision-making process. Got to protect the young arms, man. So I could envision, August, September roll around. They want to go to a 6-man rotation for a little bit to manage, Miller, Woo, and Hancock. That I think could be a possibility. It's tough because you don't want to throw off those top 3, Kirby, Castillo, and Gilbert off their schedule. So it's going to take some finessing, but I'm interested to see how they attack it and how they handle it. Either way, whether Hancock stays up or goes down, he's done everything we could have asked for him at this point, for sure.
Yeah, he's been a dog for us. The other issue that we can kind of come across with a 6-man rotation is you got to send someone down from the bullpen.
Yeah.
And right now, no one in the bullpen is deserving of being sent down. Like, it's insane.
Have to choose who it would be.
Yeah, there's so many guys. It's so funny because right now with the hitting, you're like, oh yeah, I can think of a few guys we can easily send down right now. But when it comes to the bullpen, right, when we get Woo back or when we get Santos back, it's like, who is on the chopping block from this group?
Everybody's doing their job when it comes to the arms, man, and that's a testament to the organization when it comes to coaching and philosophy when it comes to pitching. Like it seems like it doesn't matter who you put in that bullpen, they're going to succeed in some way. It's a good problem to have. The offseason rolls around. Like, could you imagine if they didn't trade Paul Sewald last year now? Right? Like, I know I
was just thinking about this the other day.
What if he was still on the fucking roster?
Trade's looking like pretty decent. We got Rojas. We've got some flexibility right now with Ryan Bliss down in the minors. He hasn't been hitting super, super well, but at the same time,
boy, so
yeah, he hasn't been hitting well, but there's some positional versatility from him. There's some speed. So come the summer, be nice to get him up. Like, that trade, we're coming out of it all right so far.
Yeah, I think they may have been a situation where they saw something with Rojas. Let's say, let's coach him on this one thing that could fix the swing or it could make the defense better or whatever. But man, he's looked good. He's looked real good. And Dom is another guy. Like, I know Dom is kind of lost in the shuffle because he's been hurt. But Dom was a dude that is considered a good hitter as well. It's kind of been completely forgotten about since this winning streak has kind of been going on. I know I forgot about Dom as a big Dom supporter. So, there's no room for Paul Sewald in the bullpen right now. I mean, they would make it work if he was still on the roster. But, yeah, the trade's not looking so bad right now, in my opinion.
Well, we wouldn't need to because he's injured. So
that's true. He's out right now, too. I forgot about that.
It'll make it a lot easier. Which you don't like to be like, oh, well, it's a good thing he's injured. But even then, before the injury, he still wasn't pitching that well.
No.
Even down the stretch, it's impossible to say if he would have got us into the playoffs. We like to be like, oh, well, yeah, for sure. We would have had more bullpen flexibility. But I don't think with the way he pitched in Arizona, he would have been enough of a difference maker to get us into the playoffs. So right now, yeah, even without Sewald's injury, this trade's looking pretty good for us.
Not bad at all, man.
Speaking one last injury, and I was kind of flipping through. I'm trying to see if there's any updates on it today, but Matt Brash has been shut down once again. And now the word is Justin Hollander is concerned about this reliever. He's got some elbow inflammation, which anytime you hear the word elbow with a pitcher who's already injured, that's pretty much, you always assume the worst. And until we get a clear indication of what's happening with Brash, we are already being like, well, season's over. He's done, right? It's tough. You want to be optimistic, but you hear elbow, it's ugh.
Yeah, I think at this point, especially with the conflicting news of he's done for the season, never mind, he'll be back at the start of May, never mind, we're concerned. And, him and Santos right now, I think the team has to operate in a function in a manner where they're not expecting these guys to contribute this year. Hopefully they do. Hopefully they're back, later in the season and can eat up some really strong, solid late innings in games. But right now, I think the team has to operate under the assumption that these guys are not going to contribute, and you got to work with what we have at the moment. Luckily, it's not a dire situation where we got to look at, maybe adding somebody externally. I think we have all the pieces we need. It does suck. Obviously, we're not going to get to see the best pitch in baseball anytime soon. Um, but at least it's a position of strength for the team, and they can probably withstand not getting those guys back.
Yeah, yeah, it's so nice that these guys have stepped up, especially, your guys like your Stanek, who is supposed to just kind of be a placeholder for the time being, and then Spire, who didn't necessarily come out of nowhere, but we were not expecting what he's been giving us so far. This has been amazing.
Thornton's another dude too.
Yeah, Thornton has been so good. He's been sneaky good since we got him, though. It's funny.
Yeah,
You look at his numbers. The guy has just went out, done his job, but I guess he doesn't get a lot of credit because there's not a lot of high leverage situations. But even then, right? He doesn't control that. He doesn't get to control
no,
when he goes in. But what he's been doing in the games that he does go in, it's just been amazing. And once again, we've talked about this. He's doing everything we've asked of him and more. All of
yeah,
these guys, we're playing like a bullpen where we can just throw anyone in a high leverage
whatever.
situation right now and feel comfortable.
And I mean, we saw that last week with Cincinnati where, Sauce went in to save that game, that 4-2 game. You needed one out and then Saucedo went in and there was runners on and it was a tough spot and he went and got the out. It doesn't matter who right now, as far as pitching goes in any situation against any team. You confident they're not going to score very many fucking runs right now because they haven't.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, right? Like you see the pitcher, like what we've got when Kirby went 7 innings last night, and just shuts them
12
down.
strikeouts.
Yeah, and then you're like, all right, bullpen's in. Okay, I can shut the game down. It's over.
Yeah.
Even
We can just turn this off.
When we had a 6-1 lead over Arizona on Friday. All right, well, game's over. Bullpen's in. Good night.
Yeah. I do remember sitting there thinking, yeah, no fucking chance that they're gonna give up
Even
5 runs.
even when Arizona loaded the bases, it was like hit a grand slam. We still have a 1-run lead with
Yeah, then we'll bring in Munoz and it's fine.
Yeah, I was still they had bases loaded and I was still confident. I was like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Hit a grand slam. I don't care anymore.
I love that we have such a history of pain and now we're just the most cocky fucking people after 3 weeks of baseball.
I call that the Houston Astros syndrome.
Yes.
We're going to completely forget everything that happened up until this moment.
Yeah. As Rafiki said, it doesn't matter. It's in the past, okay? Wise Lion King quotes.
He is a good baseball analyst too. He knows what's up.
Yeah, Rafiki don't fuck around when it comes to analyzing the baseball.
All right. So we're looking like we're kind of running out on time here. So do you have any closing thoughts here before we bounce?
No, I think you should just add your one closing thought because it was a great point. It was impossible to argue.
So we've been watching the broadcast and I love how Root Sports is using weighted runs created on their broadcast showing it. But what I can't stand is on the little bug when they showed up, they'll put the weighted runs created. So like for Ty France, I think he was at 103. And then beside it, it says MLB average 100, which is so unnecessary because the whole point of weighted runs created is that 100 is the average. It's a big statistic. It's not like if you're putting up someone slugging and they're like, oh, he's slugging 547, whereas MLB average is like 4 whatever. These are obviously non-important numbers. They're not real. But then, yeah, you need the average there to compare it. But weighted runs created is already averaged out. It's always 100. It is a static number. It's so, and this is such a small thing, and it doesn't make sense. And I know people who are seeing the stat for the first time aren't even realizing it. So it shouldn't bug me, but it just seems like if you were talking to a person and you were like, oh, yeah, I know this guy. He has 7 fingers on his hand. You'd be like, oh, that's crazy. You're not going to go, yeah, usually people only have 5. Like, they know that. So it just seems so weird to me that they have to put up the MLB average.
How many more fingers is on this dude's hand, and why did he get raised in Chernobyl? What the fuck is happening?
Like, no one's gonna be like, oh, 7 fingers, is that a lot? Like, no, everyone knows.
That more than normal?
It seems so unnecessary to me, and it's just such a non thing, and I don't like how much it bugs me, but it does.
How many toes does Mitch Garver have? Is that the problem?
Maybe that's why he's always hurt. Guy broke my toe. Well, yeah, there's a good chance you're gonna. You have 14.
On one foot or combined?
I don't know. We'll leave that up to him.
Sign us out, man.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Have yourself a great week. Feel free to join in on the comments. Keep your eyes open for that horrible weighted runs created little statistic that they put up with the average on there. Enjoy Mariners baseball. Go M's.
And if you have 7 to 14 toes on one foot, we're so sorry.